please. Thank you, Deb. All righty, everybody, welcome. So sorry about the technical the technical conversation that we were just having. So this is great. It's like a little reality TV show. You guys get to listen to everything. Para aquellos que necesiten interpretación al español, estamos poniendo las instrucciones en el chat para que entonces puedan accesar el canal de interpretación. Pero yo también las voy a decir. Una vez entran a la reunión de Zoom, ¿verdad? Ustedes, dependiendo de dónde estén, si están en una computadora, van a ver un globo terráqueo que dice interpretación. Usted le da clic ahí y entonces puede ver el canal de interpretación, va a decir inglés o español, le da español y entonces entra y va a estar escuchando a nuestras intérpretes mientras está viendo a nuestro presentador y la presentación que él va a estar dando. Si usted está en un teléfono móvil, puede ir al final de la pantalla, va a ver un icono de 3 puntitos, usted presiona ese icono y entonces ahí le va a ofrecer el canal de interpretación y entonces puede entrar nuevamente, selecciona español y ahí va a estar escuchando a los intérpretes que van a estar interpretando obviamente, ¿verdad? Perdonen la redundancia, la presentación de hoy en español. Si tiene alguna duda o pregunta, por favor, póngala en el chat y nosotros entonces vamos a contestarle y ayudarlos lo mejor que podamos. All right. So, welcome everybody to... Hola, yes. All right, Juanita, sorry. Welcome everybody to tonight's family learning session. I haven't called them a family learning session in so long, Michael.
So I love the title. I like the title.
Very, very excited to call it a family learning session. We have been doing a lot of school governance council trainings and a lot of like different things, community conversations and so on. So it's very, very exciting to call this a family learning session. So welcome everybody. We have hosted with Michael Herring before, but for those of you who don't know Michael or have not seen him before, he is the president. You're the president, right? Or the
yes, I am. Yes, yes.
You are the president. So Michael is the president of Professional Safety and Educational Development. He has been with us for a couple of years now, actually. Mm-hmm. I'm very, very excited to keep this partnership. And just a few like super overview, like short overview of Michael's work, right? Because he's done a lot. So in 2007, he was recognized by the United Federation of Teachers for providing outstanding service to educators and students, which is hence why we have him with us. And now I don't know if I made him do this or if he already was already doing this, but I've made him expand in Hartford. Parents, students.
Yes, you have.
Teachers, community partners. I don't even know who else I've made him train.
You are responsible. You are responsible, solely responsible. So thank you.
So thank you, Michael, for that.
Thank you.
He's conducted professional development, I want to say all over the place, but some places are New York. That's where you're stationed, right? Like that's where you work out of. Yep. Charlotte, Newark, East St. Louis, Charlottesville, Buffalo, and Rochester, right? Like these are a few ones. Mm-hmm. So welcome, Michael, to
thank you
again. And y'all, just so you know, hi, Principal Bernie.
How are you?
I see a lot of new faces here. So just so you all know, Michael is very engaging. He will ask us to come off mute. He will ask us to put things in the chat. So please, please, please just go ahead. We want to have a conversation. We want to hear your thoughts. This is about building, right, a bridge between the school and the home. So in order for us to do that, we need to hear from you, right? And I'm here, as always, to answer any Hartford Public Schools related questions, if I can answer them. If not, I'll find that for you. So without further ado, Michael.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Viviana. Thank you very much. And thank you, parents, administrators, and just SGC for being here and hosting me this evening. So with that being said, let me just get right to my PowerPoint because it's a lot that I want to cover. And you did a wonderful job introducing me, so I don't really have to go through a whole lot. I'm just going to just mention one thing very quickly once this moves. Okay. Let me just close this down. Okay, and again, tonight's workshop is building a bridge between school and home. And again, I welcome School Governance Council, which I'm certain all of you are part of. And I'm not going to go through my bio because, like I said, Viviana just did a wonderful job. The only thing I'm going to say is at the very end, that's perhaps the most important sentence in this entire brief bio. It says, when I'm not sequestered in my office, there's a good chance I can be found at the beach riding my bike or hiking and kayaking with family and friends. And I put that there for two reasons. For those of you that may not know me, I want you to know me a little bit better. Some of the things I enjoy doing, as you can see, I love outdoors. This is my time of year. From here to the beginning of winter, then I go into hibernation form mode, and but I love being outdoors, so I go hiking every day. In fact, between workshops today, I went hiking for about an hour. And another reason why I put that there, because I just want you to know this is how I decompress and de-stress, particularly over the last 3-4 years. And I pray and I hope that each of you have found similar ways of decompressing and de-stressing, whether it's through meditation, mindfulness, journaling, exercise, whatever your go-to has been. I certainly hope you found one, because if we don't take care of ourselves, we can't take care of those who come under our arc of responsibility. So it is essential that self-preservation is up there. And typically when I have the time, I'll go around, I'll ask each one of you what has been your go-to. But in the interest of time, I won't have time to do that this evening, but hopefully sometime in the future, we'll be able to catch up and we can speak a little bit more intimately about that. So that's all I want to say. Otherwise, thank you, Viviana, did a wonderful job. So tonight's objective is basically threefold. It's lowering the communication barriers to accelerate and facilitate open communication. Number two, a look at some of the biases implicit that some of us may have in attitudes to understand some of so we could better understand some of the parent issues today. And then lastly, look at some best practices, and hopefully we'll share in this community. One of a couple of things, if someone could just mute your phone a little bit, that would be great. I don't know what that may be, but if you could do that, that'd be super. Couple of things I just want to put out front. Let's have a robust conversation, because a lot of this is going to be conversation centered. And I think we can all learn from each other that way. I certainly learned as much as you are going to learn from me. So I enjoy that aspect of it. Number two, this workshop is going to do one of three things. It'll either A, confirm what you are already doing, pulling all the right levers, pressing all the right buttons, fantastic, continue doing what you're doing and improve upon those processes. Or it's going to be tweaks to things you may already be doing. And then thirdly, and hopefully it'll be a new way of thinking, processing information, and maybe creating some new neural pathways, the way, that we can now become more efficient, effective, and building this bridge with new materials. There's technologies changing all the time. So hopefully we'll be able to share some of those new ideas and share them as a community. Okay, so those are the three things we're going to do tonight. And how we're going to do that, we're going to do it by looking at this agenda. The first thing we're going to look at is something called mindset. Right, and it's a shift in mindset, and hopefully a seismic shift in that mindset. The number two, creating safe spaces. And thirdly, we'll look at something entitled resource-rich utilization poor. And you may already get an understanding of what that means. And then finally, Q&A. As Viviana had said, I would greatly appreciate it if you ask questions, if you say I can relate, we're doing something like that, just any feedback along the way. And I prefer to do it in the present moment in the context of what we're discussing, rather than waiting to the very end, where we sort of lost that moment. Okay, so if we could do that together, I think this would be a wonderful, rich learning experience for us. And I won't keep you, too long this evening. So let's get started. So let's talk, number one, about some of the barriers. I have a number of barriers, as you can see, that are listed here, whether it's conflicting with work schedules, which is certainly realistic. Then there's the language barrier, the low knowledge quotient. I mean, it goes on and on and on. I want you to take a look at this list and just let me know if there's any other barriers that I might have missed, a glaring barrier, because I don't know them all, but let me know if you do. If you have one that's not listed here. And I'll give you a couple seconds to peruse the list. And this would be barriers that would prevent parents from engaging at a very high level. Let me see.
I always ask this, like, can I?
Yeah, sure. Of course you can. Yes.
And some of the families here might, because I've heard this, just kind of unwelcoming environment, like what the environment feels like when they come in the school, or when they've had experiences at the school or with certain people. That's something that has become a barrier. I actually spoke to a mom earlier, and she said, since the pandemic, schools kind of like shut down, and it's a little bit hard to bring parents in again, even though parents are back in the buildings, and we are begging parents to come back in the building, right? It still feels very 2020 to me. So that's
yeah. And thank you for sharing. I'm getting that a lot from other schools as well. The same feeling. In fact, I was presenting a different workshop the other day, and we talked about welcoming, we talked about chronic absenteeism and some of the reasons behind that. And one of them is an unwelcoming environment. Although I wasn't going to cover that here, but let me just ask. I mean, I know it's not universal. Schools do different things. There's a lot of different schools within the district here. But some schools are very welcoming. The principal will be out in the front of the building in the morning, greeting parents and having conversations. The other day I was at a school, and I was waiting to start my presentation. I was downstairs as they were coming in. The kids were coming in with their families, and many of them were late coming in. But many times when a student is late, there's this punitive thing: go get a pass, go get a late pass. You're late, you're late. But this school had a little different approach. These kids had missed the breakfast, the hot breakfast, but what they had on the table for them were slices of French toast and a juice or something to drink with that for those students who came in late. And they were also offering it to the parents as well. And I said, wow, that's a really welcoming gesture to do that. And I was asking them, do you do this each day? And they said, yeah, we basically do this to provide, particularly for those kids who come in late. And I said, wow, that's a wonderful environment, and offering it to the parents as well. So I thought that was something that it was just open. It was just open. I've gone to other schools where it's very diverse, where there's like 10 different languages spoken in a school, and you'll walk in, and in the lobby, you'll see a whole motif, or mosaic, I should say, of different flags representing each country. Every time there's a new country that's represented in the school, it's put up there, and it shows that you are welcome, regardless of your language or ethnicity. And I asked them the other day, I said, who's the first person that they see when in the morning before they arrive in school? Who's the first person that they see? So they named the principal, the teachers, the cafeteria workers, because many of them go straight to the cafeteria. I said, no, there's someone else. I said, what about the bus driver? I said, the bus driver I saw greeted these kids, and when they got off, I heard this bus driver say, make sure when you come back, you tell me what you learned today. And I said, wow, everyone has to play a part in welcoming parents and students, from the custodian to the janitor to the cafeteria worker, the principal, teachers. Everyone has to play a part in this. And if we do, I think we could create a more welcoming, inclusive environment. Are any of you, some of the things I just mentioned, just curious, and like I said, I wasn't going to cover this, but I'm glad that Viviana brought it up. Or any of you engage in any type of activities like that in the very beginning of school to welcome parents and students?
We have Miss Hines raised her hand.
Yes, I'm sorry. I only see my screen, so thank you, Viviana. If anyone raises their hand or says something, I don't see it in the chat, please let me know.
I got you. Miss Hines. Welcome, Miss Hines.
Hey everyone, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Okay. One of the things that I also want to mention that does create this barrier of building a
Hmm.
bridge between home and school
Hmm.
is a lack of staffing at the schools.
Hmm.
Because say for example, you have a problem when you go to school sometimes, you know, you go to speak with a teacher
Right.
or a specific, say for example, the FCSSP, who is the family liaison. And
Hmm.
sometimes you go there and they're not even able to attend to you because she may be sitting in for somebody at the front desk. She may be dealing with something that another teacher is not in, and what the FCSSP really needs to focus on. I've been in that situation where I went to school to meet with the FCSSP, and 2, 3, 4 hours I'm still waiting
Wow. Wow.
because this person has to be double tasking, running here, running there. If a behavior tech is not available right away, the FCSSP has to do it. If
Hmm.
there's a problem with the office and attendance, the FCSSP. So staffing really does play a major role. And sometimes it is, even when you go to school, even if you do make an appointment, when you get there, the teacher may have to sit in for a class, or you understand what I'm saying?
Right. Oh, sure.
Situations like those happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
I understand exactly what you're
Yes.
saying, and that isn't an issue. I mean, that's a real issue with staffing. You're 100% right about that. But even with low staffing, there's still a way to acknowledge people. How many of us have ever gone someplace and we're waiting to be seen? I don't care whether it's a store, a hospital, wherever it is, and people walk by. Some of them don't even acknowledge you. I was somewhere the other day and I said, at least they could have come over and said, Mr. Herring, we're running a little bit behind. I know that we're going to take care of you. Just nothing. And I said, that would have just been so comforting to know that someone acknowledged you. So even then, for parents sitting there, I think that parents should always be acknowledged. And if they're not seen for 15, 20 minutes later, you come back, you check up on them, even if you can't help them, but you just let them know, stay engaged with them. These are little simple things you can do as opposed to ignoring them because of staffing. And not that it's being done intentional, but we have to be a little bit more intentional, particularly when parents are coming to the school. We want them to come into our schools. So I thank you for that. And that's an issue. That certainly is an issue. And I'm going to put that up there as far as barriers to lack of staffing. That's a good one. So thank you for that. And I think I have something in the chat too. Hold on a second. And then I'm going to get on. If you have any other thoughts, you can put it. Okay, gotcha. All right, so let me continue. Does anyone else have any other barriers? Because that was, yeah, that was insightful. Any others? Okay, if not, then let me move on. Okay, the first part, like I said, there's 3 parts. The first one is a leaning in mindset. And this is really going to be the crux of this workshop. Everything that I do is always, the backdrop is going to be the mindset, how our mindset has to change. We need a seismic shift in our mindset, a paradigm shift. Because if we don't, we're going to lose a lot of conduits that we have, and I think that we really need to create. So I'll give you an idea what I mean by that. Language, we know, is an antecedent to expectations, behaviors, and actions. So when we use certain language, that language is going to either elicit a response in the person we're speaking to, who's receiving that message, or how we respond to that person because of language that we internalize. And how do we change some of this language that's implicit, that's implied? How do we go about changing this language? Because if we do, then we can make everyone feel welcome and inclusive. So I'm going to give you something to think about in a second. There's something called asset-based language versus deficit-based language. Does anyone have an idea what this is, or give me an example? Because I'm going to go through a couple exercises in a minute. What asset-based language is versus deficit-based language. And it's used almost all the time, unfortunately, particularly deficit-based language. Any ideas? Have you heard of it before? I'm quite certain you must have heard of it before. Do you have any examples? And if a hand is up or anything like that, I don't see it, Viviana, please let me know. So no one has an idea. Okay, all right, let's talk about it then. Okay, on the left, you have asset-based language, and on the right, you have deficit. So let's take a look at the differences so you have a better, a good grasp of this. It's strength-driven. Okay, so you're looking at one's strength as opposed to their needs. Opportunities versus problems. Internally focused versus externally focused, and what is present. And this is really important. What do they come with? Where can we meet them? We always talk about meet them where they are, right? So where do we meet them, and then how do we build upon that, as opposed to asking or saying what is missing that we must go find? That certainly is deficit. And think of deficit as more of a negative, if you will. One's positive, one's negative. So if you want to say positive base versus negative base, that'll be another way of driving the point too. And asset base leads to new unexpected responses, whereas deficit, oftentimes it can lead to burnout, depression, and dysfunction, because you're wrapped up in this constant spiral of negative deficit thinking about the situation and about the people that we're dealing with, our constituents. So how do we change this? And it's interesting, because I'll share this with you. I want you to read this. The intent of councils is to enable parents, staff, school staff, students where appropriate, and community leaders to work together to improve student achievement in the state's lowest performing schools. Now, let me ask, do you think this statement right here, as well intended as it is this, would you consider this asset base or deficit base? What would you consider this statement to be?
You guys can come off mute if you would like to, and then just respond.
Yes, thank you. That'd be
I don't
great.
want to be the only one that responds.
And no response. Okay, I have one in the chat. All right, hold on.
Yes, okay.
Deficit. Okay.
Deficit. I think that's a deficit.
Deficit. And why do you say deficit? I just want to, for the benefit of everyone, why do you say that?
The intent, it means that he's gonna have to do some work of school councils to enable parents where appropriate, and community leaders to work together. So this is really, he's gonna have to seek to find that kind of, it's more on that trend. This is not in the positive.
Okay.
It's giving me a negative, right?
A negative, gotcha, negative vibe. Okay. And what else is in here that sort of points to that same direction you're saying?
Lowest performing.
To improve,
and it's the lowest performing schools. Well, guess what? I don't mean to be critical, but this is taken verbatim from the Connecticut Hartford SGC purpose. So in the purpose statement on the webinar, you'll see it there. It has a whole content, table of content. And I pulled this directly and I said, wow. I said, now here is the purpose statement of part of this SGC, but you can see that it's layered in deficit language. Like I said, not to be critical, but I just want you, we have it from the state, yes. So it comes from the state. Okay, so it's even higher. So think about that. That language is being filtered down from even a higher level. So the mindset isn't even appropriate where it's coming from, where it's emanating from. It's being filtered down, and everyone is just running with this. So what we need to do is change this, not this. I mean, obviously we can't change the state's verbiage, but we can start changing our own and how we address parents and students. So this is what I'd like for you to do. How many do we have, Viviana? How many people in total? 20?
21.
21. Okay, 21. So let's say 20. Okay. These are 4 different mission and value statements that are often full of deficit framing. Okay. Our mission is to give voice to the voiceless. The communities we serve are strong and powerful. We provide youth with jobs in order to prevent them from committing crimes. And Organization X seeks to reduce dropout rates and end the dropout crisis. So what I'm going to do, or what you're going to do in the next, let's say the next 7 minutes or so, I'm going to break you up into just 4 breakout rooms. Hopefully I could do that. I haven't done that in such a long time. Let me see if I could. Oh, no, there's something. I think you have to do it on your end, I believe. I wonder if you could do that. I didn't think about that. You know, it may not be. Could you? I don't know if you could do it on your end.
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, you can. You can. Okay. Oh, I got to figure out how I can have each one. Let me take a picture very quickly, and I will let you know exactly which rooms are what. So give me 1 second, because once I lose this screen here, you're not going to be able to see it. So
I have a question.
yeah, sure.
So here, I think it's really nice to provide a job for younger people. Actually, I studied today in my class about it, the young people, like a teenage working, because you don't get the same payment like somebody, like, do the same job like somebody else. The teenagers always get less payment.
Okay,
So,
I'm sorry. For some reason I'm not hearing very clearly. I don't know, Viviana, can you hear or maybe interpret for me a little bit?
yeah.
No, I'm having the same.
Maybe it's better now.
Oh, yeah, much better, much better.
Yeah, I try use that.
Yeah, it was like almost like Charlie Brown, that walk. Okay, so thank you. Much better. Thank you.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
actually, I studied today in my class about the teenage working that's provide, not doing crime, and, that's really good to help the young people.
Mhm.
But the question, because that's the happen now, it get less payment if somebody else. And the discussed in the class, there's, I think everybody say the same thing. That's not fair.
Mhm.
Because you do the same job, I do it, you do it, but
Right.
you get payment because there's a teenage young people. And so that is to encourage the people not working, the young people. That's the problem we have right now in the moment. Hi, how are you? Mariah?
Viviana, you're gonna have to help me out here a little bit. I was still having a little difficulty trying to piece it
Right.
together. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Yes, no problem. She's talking about like the younger people and
Mhm.
bringing them to work with us. No problem. I'm letting Michael know what's happening. And then that it's hard to bring young people, which actually this has a lot to do with what Beverly was saying, the lack of staff in the schools, being a barrier because they get paid less than
Oh, okay.
for example, right? Like I'm 32 and I will probably get paid more versus like a maybe 20-year-old that's still going to school and we're doing the same work.
Right. Well, I mean, a lot, I don't know, is that across the board, fine, or is it based on experiences? It's based on longevity? I mean, there's a lot of other variables involved there as opposed to someone who is just starting. Typically, when you first start, unless it's a minimum wage type of position where everyone's getting paid the same, usually, if someone's been there for 10 years, they're going to probably be making more than that person who starts, I would think.
Right.
So, I mean, that's just how it is here in this country. I mean, that's all I can say, Billy. I'm not trying to be flippant or anything like that. Yeah, I'm not trying to be flippant at all, but I'm just saying that's, yeah.
Right.
Okay.
I just driven away by the pay because it's there's a struggle out there with just life in general.
Sure. Exactly.
Ready.
Well, one of the things, like I said, that we can do, we start out first of all with the language, because if we don't change the language, then we don't change behaviors, the way that we react to communities, parents, and they react to us. So that's the first thing. And like I said, if you look at the mission statement, you can see that it is laced with deficit language. Okay, not no fault of Hartford. Now they realize it came from the state, so we'll make them the bad person here. Okay, but what I want to do, I want to break it up into 4 rooms if you can. I know one room is going to be uneven, and now we probably only have about 5 minutes because I'm looking what time it is. I don't want to, have some other things I want to cover very quickly. So let's say 5 minutes, and all I want to do is break each one of these points, these 4 points down, and each group will take these negative or deficit statements and see how they would reword it to make it more of an asset-based
Okay.
statement. Okay, so I have you break it out the rooms. I will give each room, I guess, their mission, the 4 different ones.
All right, so create the breakouts. Michael, are you going to join our room or?
No, I'll let them just, no, I'll let them, because otherwise it wouldn't be fair for me to just join one room and not participate in the others.
And then for anybody that's in the rooms and you guys are using an interpreter or are using the interpretation channel, please let me know so that the interpreter can come with, okay?
Now, if that's going to be an issue, if it's going to be an issue, we don't have to do this. You let me know. If it's going to be, it's too complicated, let me know.
Alba Juanita, just send me a chat if that's going to be an issue. And then I guess we would do it all together.
Yeah, we could do that, sure. Mhm. What I would do is just pick 1 or 2 of these. I wouldn't pick all 4. I just figured if we're doing it together, then we could save time. But if we're not, if we're going to do it individually, then I'll just pick 2 of these here. So we could do that. We could just pick 2. Okay.
All right, so let's do it. Yeah, because then the interpreters can.
Yeah, make it easy for everyone.
Okay, good.
Okay. All right. So let's look at the first one. All right. Our mission is to give voice to the voiceless. Would someone want to take a stab at that as to how to redesign that so we can make it more asset-based? Our mission is to give voice to the voiceless. And many times you see that statement. I mean, it sounds okay, but again, it's coming from a different framework.
I have an idea. Can I?
Sure. Sure, please.
Our mission is to amplify the voices of our community.
Wow.
I like that.
Wow. I'm saying wow for another reason, as you'll see in a minute. Yes, you're pretty spot on. That was very, very good. I love that. Let me pick one other one. We provide youth with jobs in order to prevent them from committing crimes.
Oh, wow. Are these, I just have to ask, are these like, you took this from somewhere?
No, yeah, I mean, don't worry, it's not from Hartford or anything like that.
So watch me go into every policy. No.
Right, exactly. Where did you find that? No. But I did take this from someplace else. Yes, I did.
Okay.
Okay, listen. Okay,
for
listen.
This one, I think we could use the part that says we provide youth with jobs to prepare them for their future careers.
Wow.
Or to prepare them to be leaders and shakers of tomorrow.
I love it. You all must have seen this somewhere before. This is wonderful. I mean, you're so spot on. I love this. Let me just go to the chat very quickly.
Yeah, our mission
is to listen well. Okay. Diana said our mission is to listen well. Which one is that for? I guess the first one, Diana. Our mission is to give voice to the voiceless. That sounds like that's the one that would align with.
I think so.
Yeah, I think so too. Okay, let me show you the rest of them. Man, wow, you guys were really, really good. Okay, so the first one, look at that one. Our mission on the right side, going from deficit to asset. Our mission is to amplify the voices in our community. You use the same word that they use, amplify. That's beautiful. The communities we serve are strong and powerful. Now that doesn't sound bad, but look at the word that they switched out. Instead of saying the communities we serve, it says the communities we partner with are strong and powerful. And just that change in word has a whole different vibe to it. We're partners in this. We provide youth with jobs in order to prevent them from committing crimes. 2, youth in our community are our future. We must invest in them as leaders, just like you said, our future leaders. Wow, man, shoot. It seems like you all did this. School X seeks to reduce dropout rates and end the dropout crisis. And that one is School X works with girls to prepare for graduation. So again, let's be mindful in our communication. Let's be mindful in the language that we use, because the language we use is going to, again, be the antecedent for those behaviors and expectations of what we expect, whether we think so or not. A lot of it is subconsciously done. And that's where those implicit biases happen, and we're not even aware of it. But if we can become more cognizant of our language, we'll do a much better job and have a welcoming environment. So here's one, for instance, students versus scholars. Now, I don't know how you refer to your population in the schools, but I've been to many schools, and some of them are so intentional. They just don't use the word students. They are all scholars or future scholars or future leaders. That's how they refer to them. Do any of you, all the schools that you represent, beautiful and capable students? Okay, perfect. I like that too. Do you know if any of the schools refer to students as scholars, if they change that framework? Anyone?
I would say students transforming into scholars.
Students transforming into scholars. Okay, but is that said, or you just
Yeah.
tell you? Are you saying that now in this context, or is that said in the schools or where you are? Is it
Well,
used
when
by
I
every?
visit the MLK school, that's the language that the principal is always resonating. She's always trying to tell them, the scholars. We need you to be scholars,
Good.
exceptional scholars. You know.
Now she's
So
telling
that's
that
a language that we use.
yeah, exactly. Now she's saying that to the students, or she's saying that to you, that they're.
No, she uses that language to the students. Am I breaking up? Am I
Party.
losing you?
Okay,
Students, to the students.
okay, I know that,
She
but
says that to the student body.
right, but I'm asking, all the other administrators use that same language.
Oh, that I cannot guarantee. I'm not sure of that.
That's what I'm saying. See, that's when it's integrated. That's when it's really immersed, when everyone on board, from the cafeteria worker, how you doing today, my scholar, to the maintenance custodian custodian, when everyone is on board using that. That's what I'm saying. That's when you change the community, you change the culture, and now everyone is doing that and saying that and using that terminology, not just the principal. That's why I was asking, because I know some schools where they really insist on that. And if they say student, they correct it and say, oh, I'm sorry, scholar. I meant to say scholar. And they'll catch themselves. So eventually it just changes. Again, changing the neural pathways that we are used to saying certain things. So it's a different subset. So that's why I was asking. But I know a lot of schools that do this. And I'm telling you, it's changed the culture of the schools. I know schools that before the pandemic, 3 or 4 years before the pandemic, they were near the bottom in certain districts here in New York. Brought a new principal in. He started talking about scholars. He started playing classical music as students were entering the door. He put in every door, every hallway, going down the hallways, he had the top tier colleges, whether it's Colgate, Harvard, Stanford. I mean, and so you're creating this mindset. And someone had just mentioned it before in the chat that, you're looking at expectations. So that's why I was asking that question. So, right, so we have student to scholar, again, changing the mindset. So then let's talk about parents and caregivers. Rather than parents and caregivers, what can we say? How do we speak to them? How do we address them in an email, a text? We can certainly use their name. Sure, we can make it very personal. But what else can we say? What other words can we say besides caregivers?
Sorry, I
Not
just
for words.
acknowledge that somebody said in the chat, speaking greatness into existence. Instead of saying students, we say scholar.
Scholars, right. Right, exactly.
Right.
That's what we're talking about. Exactly. So, because when you say it, guess what? They begin to act out on that, and you begin to look at them differently. So those implied biases that some of us may have, they start to go away. So that's what this is all about. It's about changing that mindset, and it's all through language. So rather than parents and caregivers, let's think of another term that we can refer them to that can really build this bridge between school and home.
Community.
Nurturers. Parents are not called nurturers.
Wait. I'm sorry. Can you repeat that again?
Nurturers.
Okay, we have nurturers,
Community.
community. So if you were sending an email, you would say, "Dear community," or is there
Yeah.
something that comes out the community?
No, just
Just
community.
community. Okay. All right. Any others? Let me look at the chat and see. Let's see.
Family,
Family.
And
I
I
don't
think
know why.
Liliana unmuted herself, right?
I'm gonna.
Oh, yeah, but no, when they send me an email, usually they put my last name in it, Miss LaSalle. You know, they, maybe dear parents, if it's like a main for every parent, but if it's directed to me, they usually use my last name.
I like family. We have nurturers, teachers, all of the above. Okay. I have a couple. But I want to hear the rest of you. Let me see if any other names, titles that we can address parents as besides just parents. Instead of dear parent, dear caregiver, what else can we say that sort of ties us together? There's one in particular I haven't heard yet. I'm sort of surprised because you all have been so much on your game. I am surprised I haven't heard this one.
Partners.
There we go. Partners. Or if you want to even go to the next level, what about educational partner? We can say co-educator. Imagine a parent getting information and it says co-educator. That means that they are actually in concert with educating their students. Because if you think about it, the first teacher is who? First teacher is the parent. But then when they go to school, we no longer call them teachers. We no longer call them educators. But think about building that bridge and what that title alone says to that parent, how it makes that parent feel. I would imagine it makes them feel welcome, that they're in this together, they're linked arm in arm with the school, with the community to ensure academic success for their children. What do you think about, what do you think about those names, those titles that we can start incorporating? Anyone?
Most definitely.
Okay. I mean, does it make sense? Change makers. Oh, I love that. I like that, Diane. Diane, change makers. Wow. Okay. I would love to know how they respond to that. It probably would hit them like, wow, change makers. Yeah. I mean, you just added value.
Policy holder.
Excuse me.
Dear policy holder.
Yeah, policy. Yeah, there you go.
Policy holder.
There's so many wonderful. I mean, we should really adopt. I mean, I don't know if you want to do it here, you want to do it offline, but there should be a regathering where we recategorize or rename parents and students, and not just call them that, but then if they're going to be policy makers, they're going to share this experience, then we need to treat them like that too. It's not just a name. We have to treat them as such. But I love that. I think that's colleagues, transformers. Yeah. Anything other than parents or caregivers, to me, that doesn't say anything. It doesn't say welcome. It doesn't say that I want you to join us. I want you to sit at the table with us. It's not inviting. It's not leaning in. We talked about the mindset, leaning in mindset. This leans in. The other is just it's meh. You know, it doesn't do anything. So let's collaborate. Oh, Diane, you're just going on and on and on. You must have the thesaurus in front of you somewhere. I mean, you coming up with all these wonderful, wonderful titles. Viviana, what's your thoughts on that particular area or aspect?
I agree. Actually, you've made me think about how it might even seem as you're here, I'm here. I kind of, it's not, I don't know that it feels community based, like we're all together, if that makes sense, right? We're a district where all our schools are community schools. So I understand, right? Our families, I actually use families.
Use families,
Because
okay.
we don't know, right? Parents is very much, for me, parents is very much biological, right?
Right, exactly, right.
So if I use families, right, I'm including grandma, uncle,
Everyone.
auntie, right? But yeah, I think I'm going to start changing that and switching it up, so that way it feels more community based.
Yeah, exactly. More community based. You're leaning in. You're inviting them into the, to the community, to the table. And someone said educational motivators. And Diane, you're still going on. I love it. Okay, so
Yeah.
that's what I want to get at. I just want to get at how do we, like I said, start changing the mindset, because again, the language is going to inform everything around it. The
Right.
behaviors and how we respond. So I think that's really essential. And the other question I want to ask is this: what is, or do you have a relationship building statement? Is there a tagline? I don't want to say slogan because that's so like blase, but is there one that SGC has that sort of brings everything together?
Not really. We have a whole theory of action that if I were to look that up right now, we would have to add another hour to our
Okay, got it.
but I would
Got-
love to have a slogan. Actually, let me look it up because we're recording this. Oh Jesus. But I'm looking to make some like banners, but that's besides the point.
Okay. I'm supposed to share a couple with you that I've come across in years, and I just think they just speak volumes. So
Yeah.
and you don't have to take these two, but I mean, you can look at them as a springboard, or let me know what you think. Let me see
I
something in
know,
the
but
chat here.
Since
Changing the
we're
world
here-
one thought at a time. Our class, changing the world one thought at a time.
Oh,
You should be a copy, Diana. You should be a copywriter if you're not.
The chat will save with Diane's name, so we can. So for those, I was thinking for like the banners, which we'll look into that later. A colleague of mine, I was like, "You're good with words. Can you like give me something?" And she said, authentic relationships, building capacity and equitable partnerships within the community. That could
I
be
like that.
all our schools, community schools. That's something that we use widely as well.
We'll say that one more time. The last part of that you said.
All our schools are community schools.
Oh, that's what you wrote there. Okay, all our schools are community schools. Okay, if that drives a point, fine. I went more micro, for more of a parent and
For like our
community.
parent perspective, yeah, our
Right,
relationship.
and community, yeah, like we care about what you care about. Whoever that may apply to, doesn't necessarily have to be a parent. It could just be in the community, and we're going to talk about that. We're going to expand the community in a minute, or working together to ensure student success. Because I try to keep things just pretty basic, because a lot of parents, when you start talking edu jargon, as I call it, where you start mentioning capacity, a lot of parents, you're going to lose them because they may not really understand what capacity is, but maybe not in the education arena and what that means. So I just try to keep it pretty 101, to be honest with you. So I include everyone in that, but it's just a couple that I found throughout the years, and they just hit the point, just straight there. You care about what you care about, meaning we're on the same page. I want to, again, leaning in. It's all about leaning in. All right. And then we talk about implicit biases. We do know that there's certain blind spots. We all have blind spots. It's like when you drive a car, there's certain blind spots. And blind spots are the ways in which most of us are susceptible, to unconscious biases towards stigmatized groups and individuals. These biases can mislead individuals and organizations into committing profound errors of judgment at work and in their personal lives. And I'm going to share one with you that was made, someone shared it with me recently. I was on a webinar and it really blew me away, but they are doing some wonderful things. It was in Atlanta, where they've changed not just the culture, but just the engagement of parents. But it started again with the shift of the mind shift. And I'm going to share just something very simple that they did, basic, but it was, everyone said, wow, I never even thought about that, but I'll share it with you in a couple of seconds. So one of the things, this is in it, is the one after this one. one of the things that I think helps out tremendously if we want to do some empathetic listening and just relating to people and people in the community, because oftentimes, you know, we'll say, what's their problem? What's his or her problem? We're driving a car and we'll say that someone cuts you off and say, what's your problem? Sometimes we carry that same what's his problem into this arena that we're talking about. I always try my best. I don't believe, and I can't say absolutes. I don't always do it, but I try always to ask the question, what's his or her story? Because we all have a story. Ours may be different, but we all have a story. And why they're where they are, the community, and bring us together. Everyone has a story. And I just think that would help us tremendously, again, in building this bridge and this gap, right? So I don't know what you all think about that. Just again, just changing that internal dialogue that many of us have. Any comments or something that you can relate to? I'll just give you a couple seconds. Guess not. Okay, but this is the one I want to talk to you about. This one right here.
Oh, I think Diane.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry, Diane. Yes, my copywriter. Go ahead, my Diane. Sorry.
Oh, but we can't hear her. What's happening?
Oh, she's speaking. Is she on mute?
Yeah, and no, she's unmuted. She's not on mute. So I'm not sure.
Just
You type
a
it?
message that says the host muted you.
Who muted? I don't know who. I didn't.
No, but
I
she's
didn't.
not muted.
Not muted. Diane?
Right. No, we can't hear her. Maybe just put it in the chat. I'm sorry, Diane.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I wanted to finally hear your voice,
She's
Diane.
like very energetic over there, and I'm like, we can't hear her.
Yeah, you're writing all these wonderful.
Vulnerability or of your personal story. Oh, all right. This is true. Yeah.
Vulnerability of your personal story. When you share a personal story with them, yes, you show your vulnerabilities, and once you lower your own barriers, oh, both barriers come down at that point. And as you're absolutely right about sharing your own personal story. Yep, and that's so important. I mention that to teachers all the time. I say, you know, something that's so interesting because you know a lot about your classrooms. You give them these essays to go home, tell me all about your parents and who's at home and your pets and things you like to do. So now you have all this history, you know everything about your students, but how much do your students know about you? Or how much do families even know about you? That you share the same love for travel or the same TV show or movies. And they say, wow, you know something, you're right. You know, so it's almost like unilateral. So you're absolutely right. The vulnerabilities and sharing your story with them goes a long, long way in developing and building community. But this is the big one. Who needs translation? We always talk about translation like right now. You know, we have someone translating and they're translating from English to Spanish, whatever language it may be. But we have to change that mindset. The people that really need translation, if you really want them to feel included, are the people who speak English. We need translation. So when you have a translator, have it be that person who is the same ethnicity if possible, and let them translate for us. And when you do that, now they really now they know that they're in this, and we're more the outsider and they're the insider, but at the same time, what we're doing, we're inviting them in. And that's what we want to do. So just that simple question blew everyone away. It was like, wow, I never thought about that. We're always saying, who needs a translator? Who needs a translator? Because, you know, we need to translate this into English. I mean, into their language. But no, let's have a translator and have it translated to our language for a change. And it's really powerful. And I'm telling you, everyone was like, wow. So that's something to think about as you go forward. Who needs a translator? Is it them or is it us? Who needs it? Who needs it? More than language, culture. Yeah, exactly. And culture also. But we have to start there. Let's start there. And then we can span out and understand culture. And we're going to have to, because, you know, we're becoming so diverse right now. In fact, about how many languages are typically spoken in any school in Hartford, would you say? Is that, I don't know if I can even frame it like that, but if you had to average the number of languages spoken in any given school, how many languages you think average?
Oh, no, we have top 5 that we know are spoken at every school, but across the district, we have over 80 languages
80
spoken.
languages. Wow. Yeah, that's a that's
There's
a lot.
schools that have over 10 within the same building, so.
Wow. Do you have apps that translate also?
Uh,
There's-
our method of communication with the families is Parent Square, and Parent Square, Deb, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it does over 100 languages.
Oh, okay. Wow. It's impressive. That's impressive. That's great.
Yeah, and of course, as you know, we have we have interpreters.
Right, right. Well, I mean, no, that's great, really, because that way no one is left out unless they're not on Parent Square. So that's good. So that's a question that just want to ask. Okay, number 2, creating safe spaces. Now, if you look at some of the barriers, many of those barriers, the ones that were bolded, happen to do with how one feels about school, their experience, lack of knowledge, feeling unwelcome. So let's create safe spaces. I know that you do a lot of home visits, which is fantastic, but sometimes even taking the parent out of that home because I don't know if they feel reluctant. Some parents may feel reluctant to have people in their home because of whatever situations that they're dealing with. What about safe spaces? Do you all meet parents where they are in their communities, but not at home, whether it is well, let's see what some of them are. Okay, well, I'll tell you in a minute. Where's some of the safe spaces? Do you meet them, whether it be at a library or a community center or a diner, anywhere like that? Does anyone meet besides the homes in a neutral place? And are you allowed to do that? Can you do that?
I want to say that I have had staff that for the home visits, they might schedule it at the Dunkin' Donuts, right? Like I've done this job. Most of them, when they're scheduling a home visit, they do it at home, or they could.
They're not at home, or they are at home. Which one? I'm sorry.
They're doing it at home, like they'll go.
Oh,
to
they're doing it at home. Okay.
But there are some families that they request that it not be at their home for whatever reason, maybe, and just thinking of me, for example, right? Like I'm at work from 9 to 5, 8 to 5, whatever. Sometimes, hey, I'm here at 6 p.m., right? So
Right.
sometimes, maybe at the lunch break and they're like, hey, I'm down the street at this place having lunch. Maybe we can talk then. So thinking of that, I do think I'm a huge supporter of this movement, right? Finding those spaces where we meet them where they're at. For trainings, workshops, we tend to keep it within the schools, but we are hoping to expand that to like a community, like, I don't know, like a Hartford Public Library, for example.
Right, right. Yeah,
So hopefully we can get there. I don't want to say that we're there yet, but that's the direction that we're moving.
Yeah, I just think, and I think you hit it on the head before you mentioned about the pandemic. It seems like after that, it's just really a struggle to get parents to come in the building. And I think a lot of that has to do with the technology that they were used to using, virtual and Zoom and just being remote. And people can do multiple things while they're on Zoom. I mean, I do many Zooms in the evening, and I hear pots and pans in the back, so I know they're doing multiple things. So it's convenient for them. It's definitely convenient. I gotta go looking up school. Peace and love to you all. Thank you. Thank you, Diana. Thank you for your input. Certainly appreciate that very much. So let me talk about safe spaces very quickly. I'm gonna try to do this. So safe spaces would be the places I mentioned. There's something in the back that we're going to talk about too. The third one, though, is something I always call resource rich, utilization poor. And I find school districts to be really, really rich in the resources that are there, whether it's at the school, whether it's the relationships in the community. But I don't know oftentimes if execution is there. I don't think that parents take full advantage of it. Now, I don't know if that's because of communication. I don't know if it's because of distance. I'm not sure what it is, but we're going to talk about a situation in a couple of seconds. And in fact, we'll do it now. Maya lived 1 block beyond the radius for the school bus pickup. That's unfortunate. Maya's mom takes her to school whenever the car is working. However, there are days when Maya's mom's car isn't working, or she doesn't have enough gas to take Maya to school. As a result, Maya would miss school. So how do you handle something like this? What would be some suggestions here? Because I'm quite certain this exists, because it's a real life scenario. So what do you do here as far as community coming together to rally around Maya to make sure she's in school and her
Beverly-
mother? I'm sorry.
Hi.
Hi,
This
I'm
is
Miss
so
Hines.
funny. Yes, this is really funny that this scenario popped up. I'll tell you what happened last night. Last night I brought my kids to a school event, right?
Mhm, right.
So we came home, everybody went to sleep. I got up late this morning, right? So
Mhm.
everybody missed the bus. I have
Mm,
2 going to elementary school and 1 going to middle school. Now, when they missed the bus, and my 12-year-old, I cannot send him on a cab to school by himself. I have to take him to school. And the little ones, I can't send them alone either. So when
mhm.
I worked out the fares to drop both of them to school and to come
Mhm,
back home, it
mhm.
was 55 US green dollars. Now
Wow.
listen, I don't
Wow.
have a
One
job,
day.
I don't work. So no, that was just 1 trip. So what I
Right.
had to
Wow. Wow.
do, seriously, it came down to an option. And I said, instead of having 2 out for 1 day, I carried the 2 smaller ones to school and let my son stay home. Now, that was not what I wanted to do,
Mhm, mhm.
but that was the most the most plausible thing that I could have done this morning.
Gotcha.
I had to
Gotcha.
take, and while I was getting them ready, hear me having this conversation. Oh my God, they need to put in place just this kind of late thing policy where a family gets access to this. If it's even just, say you have 3 kids in a district, you get access to it once per month where, say, all the kids miss the bus, they have this late pass.
Mhm.
And then you can make a call to this number and they pick up your kid. But you have to know that this cannot be habitual. It's once
Right.
for the month.
Exactly.
So when I saw this scenario, I was dead laughing.
Wow. Wow. That's so apropos. I mean, look at that. I mean, this was real life and this was real life as well. And so was yours. So that's so interesting that something very similar like this happened. And I'm sorry that it did, but this is what we want to talk about. And I think what you just said, that idea, I think was really wonderful if that could, if that not a policy, but if that's something that maybe SSC could bring up, SGC, excuse me, could bring up as far as what happens when situations like this arise. Because I had some ideas too. One of our schools has a walking school bus. Now, what is a walking school bus?
So between school staff and the partners, they walk, right? The kids, they drop them off at their, they're within the neighborhood.
Mhm.
So they like literally look kind of like a little walking school bus because there's a big person up front and then the tiny little kids, and they just do that.
Oh, okay.
Or that those walkers are home safe. Especially those ones like, Miss Hines, for example. It's awful that she would have had to pay all that money when you don't have a car and these things happen. So that's what they do at Sanchez.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that, because like I said, some of you are already doing some of the things that I was going to suggest. One of our schools has a walking school bus for half days. Now they are they're getting requests for it, so it may become an on-demand walking school bus. That's good. So, I guess if there's a high enough demand, then yeah, that can be something that we can do. So what I would like to take a look at very quickly are these integrated support services. I know some schools, and I was listening the other day, and it was a school that had these integrated support services on campus. I said, really? They had dental now. Dental could be just checkup. I'm quite certain they're not doing root canals and things like that, but they could be doing cleanings. I don't know how it was done, but they also had mental, obviously health right there, which a lot of schools do have. And they also had medical too, they had nurses. So again, I don't know if all these things are integrated support services or if they're close by. Some schools have, I'm sorry, housing services. I spelled that incorrectly. Housing services and attorney services, particularly for those who are being displaced. As a community, I don't know how far your reach is, but do you get involved in things like that for parents in the community?
We have dental and medical.
Okay, and dental and
We
medical
have
clinics.
dental and
Okay,
medical clinics,
okay,
within
good.
the school. We do have some schools through their partners and at community schools, and we have them by tiers and whatnot.
Okay.
Some schools definitely have some mental health support services, housing services and attorney services. I want to say that we definitely find the resources for them. We don't necessarily have them within the building.
Right. But you find them for them.
We do have the welcome center that they do intakes, and they follow up with like with the McKinney-Vento and homeless. They do definitely do that. Food assistance. We have a lot of schools that have food pantries within them, and this definitely helps a lot. And when we're doing home visits, we found out that a lot of families were just, they needed food. So that was a great thing when they started doing the home visits, and a follow-up home visit was, you know, let me bring you these like groceries and
Right, exactly. And that's again building that bridge. Now the question is, prior to them going to the home, do you know if the families were aware that these resources existed, such as the food assistant program? Because my question is, how are we getting the information out there? How are we communicating it to the families?
Right. And this is the struggle that we're having. But let me tell you, Viridiana,
I'm pretty bad with that kind of services.
I'm
sorry. I was reading Ms. LaSalle's.
right.
Right. Okay. She said are pretty bad with that kind of services, at least in my experience. So, okay. All right. I'd like to know about that in a minute, but go ahead, Viviana.
No, so that's why I know, like, there are certain schools, we have 39 schools, so it's a little hard for me to like know exactly what's happening at each school. I do know that there are some schools that definitely don't have any, like, for example, like with the food assistance and whatnot, or finding resources. So I do know that some families just go straight to the welcome center because they don't feel that if they go to the school, they're going to find the answers. And unfortunately I own that. I know this happens, and that's why we're doing this, right? To try to
right.
So we can focus on that. But yeah, I mean, it's happening, not across all schools. That's what I can say.
Okay. And so I guess Ms. LaSalle, who commented, is probably experienced that in one of the schools that you know she's familiar with, as opposed to one that you may be familiar with. So like you said,
from Ms. LaSalle.
Yeah, Ms. LaSalle.
Yeah, I've been experiencing that for a while. Right now I have 4 daughters under my care, for teenagers. And you know, it's like the words they know that they need, and I've been asking and I've been trying, and it's just like always, you know, yeah, we can do that. You know, I don't want to hear that you can do it. Just move. I have to have DCF so I can get the support. That's how bad the school system is. DCF is the one helping me with that, not the school.
Right. Well, at least someone is there in the school who's helping you, though. That's good.
No, but yes, Ms. LaSalle, I would love to connect with you separately. So I'm going to send you on the chat my email, so we can connect, because I mean, you shouldn't have had to get DCF involved on your own if we could have helped you. Sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
So the service she's referring to is outside of school.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, thank you for that, Viviana. I'm quite certain you know you'll definitely follow up with her. A couple of things just very quickly, and I'm gonna get out of here. Okay, in a couple seconds. The first thing is create hybrid opportunities for parents to engage in workshops, schools, events whenever possible. Now, here's the rub. I know schools want to have parents come back in, but my experience lately has been a hybrid just works so well with workshops. And by that, I mean, the parents are coming in to the school, to the building, those who want to come in and meet other parents and hang out. And then for those parents who can't for whatever reason or just don't want to, they are still able to participate and engage via Zoom or any remote opportunity for them. And we've been doing a lot of those, and that has been working so well. In fact, the other day we had an auditorium, and there was only 2 parents who came in the building, sitting in the auditorium. I was on the whiteboard, and there were 23 other parents who were looking at it virtually. And these are opportunities. I don't know, like when you do have workshops, I mean, I don't, like I said, it's a rub there, Viviana, between wanting to bring them in, but then making it convenient for everyone. That's, that's the hard part. So I don't know if you all are doing a hybrid form, or when it comes to workshops, events, with parents who can still participate remotely, and then those who can come, in the building, they're more than welcome to do that too.
I want to say we've done it twice. I do know that we do it with every board meeting.
With what? I'm sorry.
Board meeting, we have, it's live stream on YouTube, so people can.
Oh,
access
okay. I got you on YouTube. Okay. As
And
long as it's
person.
okay, so as long as it's opportunity, that's all.
Right, and we've done a hybrid meeting twice. We did one SGC training and we did a community conversation. It's just a little bit hard because of the equipment and all that, right? We're not like super prepared there.
Right, I got you. Okay.
We're definitely looking forward to it, because I do agree that we get more people when we have that option as well. And we promote it that way, we get more people RSVPing, and they know that if they can, if let's say this was in person, right? But then I had to leave at 6, I could just jump on the Zoom and listen to it on my way to, I don't know, basketball practice, and actually get the full conversation, as opposed to just like, I have to go and then bye, right?
Yep, exactly. You're still staying engaged, and that's the whole thing. You're absolutely right about that. So that would be one. So you mentioned this before about the walking bus, but I was thinking about something else too. And this is big picture. Perhaps maybe you get in touch with Uber or Lyft and see if there's some type of arrangement that can be made, or maybe there's some subsidy, if there's some funding where maybe you have develop a partnership with Uber or Lyft in the community. Or better than that, what about your local taxi company? Because they're hanging on by a thread. Many of them need some life support. I'm quite certain they would love to partner with schools and help offset the buses, like if they miss them or something like that, where now they'll pick them up and take them. I was listening to a school the other day on a webinar, and they partner with the churches in the community. And they will have the vans and they will go around to different homes. But this was dealt with truancy and absenteeism, but they also used the vans for students who missed the bus as well, and parents who had to go different places in the community. So that may be something to take a look at. And then we talked about before, safe spaces. Some of them would be, there's a project called Homework Diner, where they will meet families in the diner and we'll listen to homework or to talk about homework. We talk about libraries. Then there's the Boys and Girls Club and the YWCA. Again, for those parents that just want to meet in a neutral place other than home. So these are some of the other ideas that can come out of that. If you have any questions or comments, please do. If you're doing something like this already, I know you're doing the walking bus, but if you think that this may be something maybe to take a look at down the pathway, you certainly can. And then lastly, there's something called FAMbassadors. And FAMbassadors are families who are identified who want to become ambassadors where they now can help and assist other families who may have been in the same situations that they may find some of these other families in. And they're also bridge builders as well. So that's just a term that someone came up with. I don't know if you've heard of it before, but it seems to be extremely effective too. So maybe within the SGC, maybe there's some families there. I don't know if you have family ambassadors or not, or ambassadors. You would have to speak to that, Vivian. I don't know, Vienna, excuse me.
We have a group that's called FACES, Family and Community Educational Supports, and I'm thinking
Okay.
that would be our ambassadors.
Okay, okay.
Miss Hines over here, she is a ambassador. She can disagree if she wants to, but no, and she is one of those that, because she's been through so many things,
Mhm.
and because she's had children at multiple schools, she's one of those that will say, and I can say this because I know she'll do it, if she has $20 and you need those $20 and she doesn't need them right now, I'm sure Beverly will. So she does that with resources as well. Like, hey, I went through this is, just please take this number, call this person and do it. So I shout out to Ms. Hines over here.
Yes.
For the district.
Yes. Continue doing what you're doing. We need more of Ms. Hines. We definitely do. So thank you for what you're doing.
She doesn't have a pre-K kid right now because
I know. So she would be there. So she would be there for a long time. She would be there for a long time. I see. Oh, that's wonderful. I love it. Well, maybe grandchildren at some point, bring them in, get them in the system. So I never know. Okay. Very quickly, and the last thing I just want to leave you with is this. I call it the math riddle of persistence. If you call a caregiver or community-based business organization 20 times and they finally respond after 20th call, how many times does it take to get a response? So how many times does it take to get a response? If you call 20 times and it took 20 times, how many times does it take to get a response? Anyone?
20.
20. Thank you. Exactly. 20. The bottom line is we can't give up. We have to, continue being persistent, because it could be that 20th time where that's when they're needed. That's when the community comes together. That's when, the pieces come together. And sometimes it just takes those many, but we can't give up on what we're doing. We can't give up on trying to implement some of the ideas and the resources that you all have, because you have, like I said, you certainly are rich in resources. That's always the case. I find, like I said, in school districts, they're rich in all the different community resources, but at the same time, are we utilizing them to the hilt? Are we getting our message out there? And are we changing our mindset now, way that we're approaching language, and whether it's asset-based versus deficit-based, and looking exactly where it comes from. And see, someone just noted it comes from the state. So, but let's not just take it from the state and then run with it. Let's try to internalize and change our own asset-based language, because again, the language is going to determine the expectations, which is going to determine behavior and how they respond and how we respond. All right. So, and then talking about creating safe spaces as well. And there's so much more that we could talk about. I mean, this is like a little over an hour, but there's just so much more. I've done this in a half-a-day workshop, so I'm just bringing some of the more salient points here. I didn't even talk about neurologistic programming, because I've done that before in the past. Tonight, I basically gave you more of a micro view, where before we got into the inertia, we got minutia of things. We really got granular, if you will. But today, I just want to do more of a 30,000-foot view. So hopefully, you'll take some of this information with you and implement it. And that's the only thing I can really hope. And I hope next time I speak to Viviana, she'll let me know, we've done this, we're doing that, and we're starting to see some results, and we're becoming closer as a community and bringing families together and resources and everything else that you all do. So I certainly appreciate the time. And I thank you, Viviana. Yeah, thank you for that. And I definitely look forward to hearing from you regarding that too. So I'll take any questions that you may have, if anyone has any questions or comments or any takeaways that you may have as well. If you have any takeaways, I would love to hear. This is my information. You can feel free to reach out to me anytime you choose to. I'm pretty much accessible unless I'm presenting a workshop. You can go to email, website, or you can just call me anytime you want to. So I thank you again for this opportunity. And let me stop sharing right now.
Thank you, Michael. You got a heart from Miss Farran over here. I
Oh.
wanted to let you know that you got a heart.
Okay, well, thank you.
And I really appreciate the new perspective. And I definitely will reach back out with results. I'm talking from an asset.
That's it. Yes.
Asset based over here, not if it worked, but with what worked.
What worked, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Miss
Well,
Hines
I thank you. Say it again. I'm sorry.
Miss Hines has her hand.
Oh yes, Miss Hines. I'm sorry. Yes, I do see the yellow hand. Yes.
Yes, thank you. This presentation was really quite informative, and not just informative, but it gave us really and truly a new mindset, because as you said, with that SGC statement, and I promise you, I give you my word today, we're going to change that SGC statement because of the wording of that SGC statement. I am telling you factually, all that is written in that statement is being manifested in our schools right now. And I never, ever thought of really analyzing the mission statement, because everything that is written in that statement right there, we see it actually coming into play right now, especially at Weaver High School, where we're having a real tough time with our budgets and our teachers and the level of education and the level of, just the whole level of how Weaver is being perceived, and like when I sat here and I listened to this whole forum, and especially that lady who was talking about wanting the assistance and having to go through DCF, and like you said, the resource rich, right? We don't have liaisons in the district for like parents who sometimes parents get so turned off by the fact that they need help. Some parents really don't even want to know that they need help. And when they go to these resource rich centers and they start giving them the runaround, they just take that as a flag to go back home and do nothing about it.
Exactly.
They can't be bothered to be running back, because every time when I had my situation, listen to me, I had to call Jesus and the 12 disciples. They kept turning me around in a circle. And each time they sent, at one point I remember asking one of the persons, do you know what the word resource means? Because why you keep rerouting me every time that I come to you for help? You understand? The help is there. They put up these barriers that make you feel ashamed and intimidated in coming to ask for help. And I had to remind one worker at one time that if I didn't have a need, you wouldn't have a job.
Amen. Exactly. Exactly. Again, it's the shift
in the mind.
Yes, it's a shift in the mindset. It truly is. Right. Yeah, I agree, and that's why I wanted to spend a lot of time on that, because that's really that's the crux. And if we change that, we can start breaking down brick by brick. If we have to start there though.
Exactly, and we can recreate safe spaces in our parents' minds by stepping down of all of these hierarchies that we have in the board and taking off your high heels and putting on your sneakers. Walking with parents hand in hand. I have said this before and I'll keep saying it. When you driving in the mornings for a 9 to 5, are you driving? You put on your heels, you come in and you open your door, you push a pin, you log in, and you turn your keys on at 4 o'clock in the evening, and you get out of here and you go back home. If you're not able to identify with what happens in this district after school hours, then what happens really and truly with these families doesn't bother you. You can't attest to it. You understand, sir? And
Yeah,
these
yeah,
are the things
yeah,
that
yeah.
I say. We need to be able to crouch together, crawl together, sit up together, walk together, and then run together. That's the only way the district will succeed as a district.
I agree. And again, it begins as well with breaking down those barriers that, because some of these are self-imposed barriers. Some of them we put up, as administrators. We have to break them down. You have to bring them down. If you bring them down and there's no barriers, then now you can have conversation and discourse and trust, which is something I covered.
Equity is another thing.
Equity.
Equity is another thing. And we don't want to hear equity. We don't want to hear the word. We want to see the action.
You want to see it. You want to see it. Yeah. There's all these buzzwords. We hear all these buzzwords all the time and nothing changes, but we can with people like you. So I thank you. I thank you so much. So continue doing what you're doing. And Viviana, thank you again for this wonderful opportunity, and parents, administrators, and SGC, for all of you. Again, I thank you. And I hope to work with you sometime in the future again. So be well and be safe. All right. Thank you, Viviana. Thank you all.
Thank you,
God
everyone.
bless you. Good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone. Bye, Viviana.
Bye, Juanita. Gracias.